The Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer is designed to effectively clear and maintain utility right-of-ways. Available in both wheeled and track configurations, the Jarraff is completely self-contained and does not require outrigging, allowing the user to cut, trim, and maneuver efficiently. The Jarraff's 24-inch carbide-tipped saw blade operates at 3,200 RPM. A non-conductive fiberglass boom extends up to 75 feet and has a 90-degree plus range of motion. A turntable base offers a 360-degree range of motion and a 40-degree lateral tilt. Basic safety rules should be followed by the operator of the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer at all times. Careful supervision of the Jarraff is vital for safe operation. Both the operator and ground personnel should make an assessment of the terrain before operation. A visual and physical inspection of steeps, rocks, stumps, swamps, rivers, streams, and the general condition of the terrain is essential to ensure safe negotiation in adverse conditions. Warning: do not operate the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer on any slope that exceeds 25 degrees. Use caution and go slower when operating on slopes nearing 25 degrees. Use the slope meters equipped on the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer as a guide for slope inclination. Operating on slopes greater than 25 degrees can compromise the stability of the unit, creating a hazardous situation that can result in serious injury or death. The safety of personnel, tree trimming production, and the traveling capability of the Jarraff is the sole function of the operator's skill and proficiency. Operating the Jarraff improperly, beyond its stability limits, felling dangerously large tree limbs, or improper cutting of any tree limbs may cause serious personal injury to the operator, damage to public or private property, and can cause serious personal injury to ground personnel, also damaging the Jarraff unit itself. Once the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer is in operation, all ground personnel must remain a safe distance away from trimming operations, a minimum of 300 feet. Only one person should be operating the Jarraff at a time, and no additional riders should be allowed before, during, or after trimming operations. Always wait until the Jarraff is at a complete stop and turned off before exiting the machine. Never jump off a moving Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer. Safety is the responsibility of the operator. Caution: before operating the Jarraff, make sure to wear the proper safety apparel and equipment, including a hard hat, safety glasses, safety shoes, safety gloves, safety vest, ear protection, the seat belt, and anything else required by the specifications of the job. Please follow all of the safety rules outlined in the Jarraff manual. Not following the outlined safety procedures can result in personal injury or death. Jarraff parts, components, and assemblies. The Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer can be roughly divided into four main sections: the engine compartment, boom, saw, and related components, cab, upright, and cradle, and undercarriage, driveline, and tires. Familiarize yourself with the four major areas of the Jarraff and all their associated components before service, inspection, or operation. The engine compartment consists of the return filter assembly, the engine enclosure, transport boom rest, fuel tank, the fuel line. The boom, saw, and related components section consists of the hydraulic poppet hose attachment, the limb guard assembly, saw adapter assembly, saw guard assembly, saw arbor assembly, the outer boom bearing, the inner boom, the inner boom bearing, and the extension retraction chain. The cab, upright, and cradle section includes the base plate, rotation gear bearing, the turntable, rotation gearbox, the upright, the cradle or boom cradle, the instrument panel, the throttle cable, operator's cab, boom drive assembly, the parking brake, rotary manifold, the undercarriage driveline and tire section includes winch control, tires, tracks, driveline, and the push blade. Inspection and service. Note, all inspection and service operations should be performed when the Jarraff is off and the engine is cool. Rotation gearbox maintenance. The gearbox of the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer requires regular inspection and service to ensure optimum performance. Visually inspect the gearbox and mounting hardware daily for cracks and signs of wear. Warning: if rotation gearbox shows signs of wear or visual cracks in the mounting base, cease operation immediately. For detailed inspection on gearboxes manufactured before August 21, 2009, consult Appendix D in the back of the printed Jarraff Manual version 3.1 or contact Jarraff Industries for additional information. Check rotation gearbox mounting bolts for tightness daily. Mounting bolts should be torqued to 260 foot-pounds. Tighten bolts if needed using a torque wrench. Note: all Jarraff tree trimmers manufactured after August 21, 2009 and with a serial number ending in 708 will have the 6-bolt rotation gearbox. Grease rotation gearbox fitting with one pump weekly. Note: over-greasing will cause the gearbox to leak from the top cover. Note: Jarraff units containing 80W90 gear lube should be drained and refilled with 2 tubes of Mobilex EP0 grease or its equivalent. Please refer to Appendix D in the Jarraff Manual version 3.1 for proper procedure or contact Jarraff Industries for more information. Note: the following procedure applies to Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmers manufactured after August 21, 2009. Grease the rotation bearing zerk on the upright daily. Adjust rotation gearbox backlash. Note: rotation gearbox to ring backlash should be inspected daily. Adjust the backlash as needed. The gearbox should have a 0-degree backlash between the shaft and the ring gear teeth. Place machine on level area and set parking brake. Raise boom out of the boom rest but do not rotate. Slightly loosen the 6 gearbox mounting bolts. Use spanner wrench tool from Jarraff to rotate the eccentric ring on the gearbox. Rotate the ring counterclockwise with spanner wrench or hammer and punch while rotating the gearbox stub shaft back and forth. Contact Jarraff for spanner wrench specifications. Gearbox should have a 0-degree backlash between the shaft and ring gear teeth. Torque 6 gearbox mount bolts to 260 foot-pounds. Grease the saw arbor after every 4 hours of operation to ensure optimum performance and prevent premature wear. The saw arbor grease zerk is located on the front of the saw head. Check the saw head and saw blade carbide tips for wear or damage. Keep the saw blade sharp and replace broken or lost carbide tips. Grease the boom lift cylinder in the following 3 locations daily. 2 zerks at the bottom of the lift cylinder, and 1 zerk at the top of the cylinder. Grease the 3 tilt cylinder zerks daily. 1 grease zerk on the bottom of the tilt cylinder, and 2 grease zerks on the top of the tilt cylinder. The rotation group and rotary manifold have 4 areas that need to be greased daily. 1 grease zerk located on top of the rotation bearing, the middle grease zerk, and 2 zerks located between the upright brackets. Grease the 2 cradle pin zerks, 1 on each side of the machine, daily. Visually inspect the hinge and cylinder pins, hoses, fittings, and adapters, making sure to check for leaks, wear, or damage. Check for wet spots on and around the machine daily, as these may indicate fluid leakage or loss. Check the boom for evidence of telescopic motor fluid leakage and visible damage. Note: depending on operating conditions, the boom will need periodic cleaning with warm water and mild soap. Do not pressure wash the boom. Check all moving parts for sticks, dirt, or debris that may hinder operation of the upper and/or under carriage. Check the following hydraulic system components regularly for visible damage, leakage, and security: hydraulic oil reservoir, hoses, and fittings, Note: Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmers manufactured after August 2009 will have sight glasses for hydraulic fluid. Note: hydraulic reservoir level should be halfway up in the top sight glass. Use only Cenex hydrostatic 46 MV fluid or equivalent. Do not use universal hydraulic fluid or pump damage may result. Contact Jarraff Industries for further fluid specifications. Also check hydraulic cylinders, pumps, hoses, and fittings. Directional valves, valve linkages, hoses, and fittings. Hydraulic winch. Hose reel hoses and fittings. Check sprockets and coupling lines as well. Tighten hydraulic lines, fittings, connections, and attach hardware as required. Replace the in-tank hydraulic filter. First, remove the cover. Next, remove the 4 bolts in order to replace the hydraulic filter. Caution: tank may be under pressure. Remove cover bolts slowly. Check the fuel tank, fuel line, and fittings to make sure there are no fuel leaks. Check the exhaust system for damage, leakage, or loose mountings. Check the driveline for loose or worn components. Repair or replace damaged components as required. Boom extension chain. Check the boom extension chain regularly for proper tightness. Remove extension chain assembly cover. Extend boom to maximum length. Extended boom should measure 31 feet from the saw blade to the front side of the boom bearing. Note: inner boom length should be checked daily. If a red painted band is visible on the inner boom, the machine should be shut down immediately and the boom chain stops should be inspected and repaired as needed. Failure to repair this issue could lead to a broken chain and possible damage to the inner boom. Inspection and service. Note: all inspection and service operations should be performed when the Jarraff is off and the engine is cool. Check engine oil. Check engine oil daily. Fill as needed with 15W40 diesel oil. To check oil, remove, clean, and replace dipstick. Then remove the dipstick and check the oil level. Change engine oil and oil filter. Note: change engine oil and oil filter after 50 hours of use. Then refer to the maintenance chart in the printed manual for recommended oil change intervals. To change oil, drain oil from oil reservoir by removing the drain plug. Drain and dispose of oil properly. Replace drain plug. To change oil filter, unscrew the existing filter by turning counterclockwise. Properly discard of the filter. Replace with a new filter and screw into place by turning the new filter clockwise until tight. Do not over-tighten. Note: change the oil filter when replacing the engine oil. Note: refer to the maintenance chart in the printed manual for recommended oil and oil filter replacement intervals. Remove the oil reservoir cap by turning counterclockwise. Add 16 quarts of 15W40 diesel oil. Replace oil reservoir cap. Repeat check oil procedure after running the engine to ensure that the proper amount of oil has been added. Visually inspect the oil cooler for dirt and debris daily. Visually inspect the fuel filter and water separator for water or debris daily. Empty the separator by opening the petcock valve at the bottom of the separator bowl. Once drained, retighten the petcock valve. Replace the primary fuel filter at regular machine service intervals after approximately 250 hours of use. Replace the secondary fuel filter at regular machine service intervals after approximately 250 hours of use. After replacing the secondary fuel filter, prime the Jarraff fuel system by turning the key to the run position. The electronic fuel transfer pump will prime the system. Start the engine briefly to make sure that the system has been primed. Clean cooling fins before use. Important: inspect and clean cooling fins daily. Failure to do so may result in engine overheating and possible engine damage. First, remove the engine cowling cover and brush out the cooling fins on the engine and oil cooler. Second, start the engine and allow it to run briefly for about 10 seconds. This will allow the cooling fan to blow debris out of the engine compartment. Next, stop the engine. After cleaning, re-inspect cooling fins. If debris is still present, clean fins again using compressed air or a pressure washer. And then replace the cowling cover. Note: use care when pressure washing cooling fins. Fins can bend if pressure is applied at an angle. Only spray water straight through the cooler. Check the air filter condition twice daily. Visually inspect the filter condition by monitoring the filter gauge. The filter gauge will indicate service when the air filter needs replacing. Note: not replacing or cleaning the air filter will result in poor engine performance and possible engine damage. Dusty operating conditions will warrant more frequent filter inspections. Note: only remove the inner filter when ready to replace. Note: inspect the air filter housing and plumbing daily for any damage or loose components. Failure to perform this check could lead to engine damage. The following electrical system checks are recommended. Check the battery for cracks, corrosion, and other visible damage. Check the battery box, cables, and terminal connections for tightness and damage. Check the operating instruments and lights for proper operation, secure mounting, and loose electrical connections. Check the operation of all electrical switches, switch hardware, and electrical connections. The following checks of the engine and drivetrain are recommended. Check the engine and engine components for loose hardware, oil leaks, fuel leaks, or damage. Tighten any loose hardware as required. Important: repair oil or fuel leaks immediately. Inspect the fan belt for wear and damage daily. Engine exhaust. Inspect the engine exhaust daily for leaks and damage. Note: exhaust leaks will cause excessive engine compartment temperatures and could cause a fire in the engine compartment. Inspection and service. Note: all inspection and service operations should be performed when the Jarraff is off and the engine is cool. Check engine oil. Check engine oil daily. Fill as needed with 15W40 diesel oil. To check oil, remove, clean, and replace dipstick. Then remove the dipstick and check the oil level. Change engine oil and oil filter. Note: change engine oil and oil filter after 50 hours of use. Then refer to the maintenance chart in the printed manual for recommended oil change intervals. To change oil, drain oil from oil reservoir by removing the drain plug. Drain and dispose of oil properly. Replace drain plug. To change oil filter, unscrew the existing filter by turning counterclockwise. Properly discard of the filter. Replace with a new filter and screw into place by turning the new filter clockwise until tight. Do not over-tighten. Note: change the oil filter when replacing the engine oil. Note: refer to the maintenance chart in the printed manual for recommended oil and oil filter replacement intervals. Remove the oil reservoir cap by turning counterclockwise. Add 10 quarts of 15W40 diesel oil. Replace the oil reservoir cap. Repeat the check oil procedure after running the engine to ensure that the proper amount of oil has been added. Replace the primary fuel filter at regular machine service intervals after approximately 250 hours of use. Once replaced, prime system with primer pump. Replace the secondary fuel filter at regular machine service intervals after approximately 250 hours of use. Note: once replaced, prime system with primer pump. Check engine coolant daily. The radiator should be full. And the overflow tank should be half full. Note: when adding coolant, use a 50-50 mixture of ethylene glycol and distilled water. Check the air filter condition twice daily. Visually inspect the filter condition by monitoring the filter gauge. The filter gauge will indicate service when the air filter needs replacing. Note: not replacing or cleaning the air filter will result in poor engine performance and possible engine damage. Dusty operating conditions will warrant more frequent filter inspections. Make sure when replacing the air filter and cover that they are properly seated. If not, engine damage may occur. Note: inspect the air filter housing and plumbing daily for any damage or loose components. Failure to perform this check could lead to engine damage. The following electrical system checks are recommended. Check the battery for cracks, corrosion, and other visible damage. Check the battery box, cables, and terminal connections for tightness and damage. Check the operating instruments and lights for proper operation, secure mounting, and loose electrical connections. Check the operation of all electrical switches, switch hardware, and electrical connections. The following checks of the engine and drivetrain are recommended. Check the engine and engine components for loose hardware, oil leaks, fuel leaks, or damage. Tighten any loose hardware as required. Important: repair oil or fuel leaks immediately. Inspect the fan belt for wear and damage daily. Inspect the radiator fins daily for debris and damage. Clean as needed to prevent engine overheating and possible engine and radiator damage. Use compressed air or a pressure washer to clean the engine cooler. Note: use care when pressure washing cooling fins. Fins can bend if pressure is applied at an angle. Only spray water straight through the cooler. Engine exhaust. Inspect the engine exhaust daily for leaks and damage. Note: exhaust leaks will cause excessive engine compartment temperatures and could cause a fire in the engine compartment. Wheel Jarraff inspection and service. Visually inspect the tires daily for air loss. Check tires with an air gauge weekly. The range should be between 18 and 22 psi. Visually and physically inspect tires for loose lug nuts. Lug nuts need to be torqued to 430 foot-pounds. Visually and physically inspect tires for loose axle plate hardware. Tighten the 3/4 inch hardware to 380 foot-pounds. Wheel configurations. The Jarraff is delivered in a shipping wheel configuration, which is a narrow track width, in order to prevent overhang on standard trailers. Important: always use proper safety equipment. Caution: prior to operation, the wheels must be adjusted to the wider track width. On flat ground with the machine off and the parking brake set, jack up one end of the machine at a time so that the wheels on the axle being adjusted are off the ground approximately 4 inches. Remove 3/4 inch hardware from the outer bolt circles only, leaving the axle plate fastened to the axle with the 7/8 inch nuts. Pull the wheel outward or away from the machine until the axle plate meets the rim plate. Reinstall the 3/4 inch hardware in this position and torque to 380 foot-pounds. Reverse these steps to adjust back to the shipping configuration. Contact the Jarraff Service Department at 800-767-7113 with questions. Manual parking brake release and reset procedure. Caution: manual parking brake release should only be performed if the machine is disabled and needs to be towed to a safe location to perform repairs. Machine should never be operated with brakes released manually. Important: do not tow machine faster than 2 miles per hour. Brake release procedure. Important: place the machine on level ground and place wheel chocks in front of and behind at least one wheel to prevent the machine from moving. Lower the push blade so that the blade engages the ground. Loosen the jam nut on each of the brake release screws, 4 on each axle, by turning counterclockwise. Hand tighten each screw by turning clockwise until a slight pressure is felt where the screw is just starting to engage with the pressure plate. Once pressure is felt, tighten the screws by turning clockwise a 1/4 turn at a time in an alternate sequence so as to evenly disengage the brakes. Tighten by a maximum of 1 complete turn. Repeat this process for both sides of the axle, one side at a time. Then repeat the process for the other axle. Caution: parking brakes are now disengaged and the machine can freewheel. Reset brakes. Important: place the machine on level ground and place wheel chocks in front of and behind at least one wheel to prevent the machine from moving. Lower the push blade so that the blade engages the ground. To reset the parking brakes, loosen the brake release screws by turning counterclockwise a 1/4 turn at a time in an alternate sequence so as to evenly engage the brakes. Loosen by a maximum of 1 complete turn on all 4 locations on each axle, until the brake release screws reach the correct measurement of 34 millimeters or 1.34 inches. Repeat this process for both sides of the axle one side at a time. Then repeat the process for the other axle. Tighten the jam nut on each of the brake release screws. Check the brake system for correct operation by slowly driving the machine in reverse and applying the brakes while in motion. Important: the machine should stop immediately. If the machine fails to stop, contact Jarraff Industries for further inspection procedures. Caution: always wear the seatbelt when performing this test. Parking brake test. The parking brake on the Jarraff should be tested daily. On a clear, level area, begin driving the Jarraff in reverse at a slow speed, no more than 2 miles an hour. Then engage the parking brake. The Jarraff should come to a complete stop if the brake is working properly. Important: this test should only be performed with the cab door closed, the operator's seatbelt secured, and the boom retracted and resting on the cradle. Check steering linkage daily. Visually inspect the wheel Jarraff for loose bolts in the steering linkage. Tighten as needed. Check the transfer case fluid level daily. Note: use only Cenex Hydrostatic 46 MV fluid or equivalent in transfer case. Use of any other type of fluid may result in transmission damage. Check the axle lube on level ground weekly in the following locations: 4 level check plugs, 2 on each axle, 2 fill locations, 1 on each axle, and 4 locations on the axle wheel hubs. Low axle lube may indicate leakage. Excessive or contaminated lube level may indicate internal brake leakage. Contact Jarraff Industries for service details. Grease the steering cylinder and center section of the wheel Jarraff in the following 6 grease points daily. Grease the following 2 oscillation grease points daily. 2 oscillation zerks located under the front section of the Jarraff. The zerks, 3 total, at the articulation point of the Jarraff. The zerks, 4 total, under the Jarraff along the driveline. Note: depending on the point where the Jarraff is stopped, driveline grease zerks may be in different locations. Note: if no grease zerks are found on the driveline, the Jarraff may be equipped with sealed, lifetime lubricated U-joints. Contact Jarraff Industries for more information. Grease the following 6 grease points on the push blade daily. The Zerks, 4 total, 2 on each side of the push blade where it connects to the frame of the Jarraff. Grease the Zerk at the bottom of the lift cylinder, and grease the Zerk at the top of the lift cylinder. Track Jarraff service and inspection. Inspect oil levels in undercarriage track hubs daily. Fill as needed. Visually inspect levels on models with clear hubs. On models with protective covers, remove the center plug. If the lube flows freely, the oil level is fine. Important: insufficient oil levels can result in bearing failure. To fill the oil hubs, remove the cap and add the appropriate amount of 80W90 gear lube. Check fluid levels in the final drives of the undercarriage once per week. To fill, position one fill plug at center or the 12 o'clock position. This should position the other plug at the 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock position. Remove both lubricant reservoir caps. Pour the 80W90 gear lube into the final drive lubricant reservoir positioned at the 12 o'clock position until the lubricant begins to flow from the other plug. Then replace the reservoir caps. Inspect the oil level in the idler sprockets daily. Fill as needed. Visually inspect the oil level on models with a clear hub. On models with protective covers, remove the center plug. If the lube flows freely, the oil level is fine. Important: insufficient oil levels can result in bearing failure. To fill the idler sprockets, remove the oil reservoir cap. Add the appropriate amount of 80W90 gear lube. Replace the cap when done. Check the dual pump drive lubricant level daily. Fill as needed with 80W90 gear lube. Grease the push blade on the track Jarraff in the following 4 locations daily. Left side arm zerk. Right side arm zerk. Bottom cylinder zerk. Top cylinder zerk. Check the track tension daily. There should be approximately 1 to 3 inches of separation between the wheel and the grouser bar. Tension track if separation is less than 1 inch. To tension the track, grease the tensioning zerk until the proper tension is restored. Steel and rubber track. Note: the following procedure applies to Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmers manufactured after August 21, 2009. Grease each zerk on the steel and rubber track zerk bank once per day. This grease bank lubricates all walking beam and front axle shafts. Boom assembly procedure. Inner boom rail installation. Note: steel bolts with self-locking nuts are used on the inner boom rail. Steel bolts still conform and meet the same dielectric standards. With the boom bolt wrench or suitable substitute, secure rail nuts and align with bolt hole. Note: steel rail bolts should be torqued to 60 foot-pounds. Install inner boom bearing. Slide the inner boom bearing into position abutting the end of the boom rail. Place the thinnest part of the bearing on top. Position and align boom bearing. Note: clamp inner boom bearing in place if necessary while drilling. Next, drill holes through the inner boom bearing with a 7/16 inch bit at the 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 5 o'clock positions. Remount the holes with a 1/2 inch reaming bit. Remove inner boom bearing to smooth off the hole edges. Slide the inner boom bearing back into place and screw in a coarse thread 1/2 inch by 1.5 inch bolt and a 1/2 inch SAE flat washer from the inside of the boom out. Tighten until secure. Slide the inner boom puller assembly into place until it abuts the inner boom bearing. Tap inner boom puller assembly into place. Important: make sure the chain swivel attachment is parallel to the inner boom rail. Secure inner boom puller assembly with clamp bolt. Drill holes through the boom with a 1/2 inch bit at the 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 8 o'clock positions. Inner boom puller will have pre-drilled holes in those locations. Secure inner boom puller assembly with 1/2 inch by 1.5 inch bolts, washers, and nuts. Tighten until secure. Torque to 60 foot-pounds. Tighten clamp bolt. Attach chain swivel attachment to the inner boom puller. Align poppet hose attachment on the inner boom and mark drill hole locations. Using a 1/4 inch drill bit, drill holes for the poppet hose attachment. Install saw guard adapter. Before installing the saw guard adapter, slide the outer boom bearing onto the inner boom. Slide saw guard adapter into place until it is flush with the boom. Position saw guard adapter. Clamp the saw guard adapter in place. Drill holes through the saw guard adapter and the inner boom with a 1/2 inch bit at the 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock positions. The saw guard adapter will have pre-drilled holes in those locations. Remount holes with a 1/2 inch reaming bit. Remove saw guard adapter. Install inner boom support collar. Slide saw guard adapter in place and align holes. Secure in place with 1/2 inch by 1 3/4 inch bolts, 1/2 inch washer, and nylock locking nuts. Tighten in an 8 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock progression. Torque bolts to 60 foot-pounds. Install inner boom hydraulic hoses and poppet assembly. Feed hoses with poppet valve assembly through the inner boom. Important: use only non-conductive hydraulic hoses. Install saw head assembly. Connect the hydraulic hoses to the saw head hydraulic fittings and tighten securely. Important: make sure to connect the return hose to the return fitting and the pressure hose to the pressure fitting. The return hose is 3/4 of an inch in diameter and the pressure hose is a 1/2 inch in diameter. Orient the saw head. Connect the saw head to the saw guard assembly. Secure with 1/2 inch by 1.5 inch bolts and 1/2 inch nylock locking nuts. Torque bolts to 60 foot-pounds. Install saw motor cover. Secure with 5/16 inch by 1 inch bolts and 5/16 inch nylock locking nuts. Outer boom idler sprocket preparation. Measure and mark bolt hole locations for the idler sprocket on the outer boom using an L-square. The first bolt hole should be 6.5 inches from the edge of the boom. The second should be 8.5 inches from the edge of the boom. Important: the idler sprocket bolt holes need to be in line with the boom itself from end to end. Misaligned bolt holes will impair the proper function of the boom and could result in boom failure. Using a 1/2 inch drill bit, drill holes for the idler sprocket, then ream holes with a 1/2 inch reaming bit. Rotate outer boom if necessary so that idler sprocket bolt holes are at the bottom of the outer boom. Loosely secure poppet attachment with 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch bolts, flat washer, and nylock locking nuts. Install extension retraction chain, outer boom. Using a rodder, throwing weight, or similar tool, thread the length of the outer boom with a pulling device such as a rope or a rod in order to pull the extension retraction chain into place. Once threaded, attach the extension retraction chain to the pulling device. Note: use high-quality number 50 chain, approximately 70 feet long, or use the existing chain. Pull the extension retraction chain into the outer boom, making sure to pull enough chain to accommodate installation of the idler sprocket approximately 3 to 4 feet. Idler sprocket preparation. Install 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 inch idler sprocket bolts and 1/2 inch SAE washers into the pre-drilled hole locations in the idler sprocket shaft. Using a forklift or comparable piece of equipment, carefully position the inner boom for installation into the outer boom. Thread the extension retraction chain through the idler sprocket assembly as shown. Important: make sure chain is straight without twists or bends. Warning: it is critical to properly install the extension retraction chain through the idler sprocket. Improper installation of the extension retraction chain could result in catastrophic boom failure. Attach the end of the extension retraction chain threaded through the idler sprocket to the chain swivel attachment on the inner boom pulling assembly using the master chain link. Important: make sure chain is straight without twists or bends. Warning: it is critical to properly install the extension retraction chain through the idler sprocket. Improper installation of the extension retraction chain could result in catastrophic boom failure. Slowly feed the inner boom into the outer boom while simultaneously guiding the sprocket assembly into place. Rotate boom slightly if necessary to properly orient and allow for the idler sprocket assembly installation. Align idler sprocket assembly bolts with bolt holes and secure with 1/2-inch SAE washers and 1/2-inch nylock locking nuts on the outside of the boom. Once the idler sprocket is installed, complete the inner boom installation. Rotate inner boom back to the 12 o'clock position. Install a temporary holding screw through the outer boom and into the outer boom bearing to ensure secure transport of the boom assembly to the Jarraff. Firmly secure poppet hose attachment with 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch bolts, flat washer, and nylock locking nuts. Torque bolts to 9 foot-pounds. Attach boom to upright. Make sure the Jarraff is on flat level ground and that the upright is level to allow for proper boom installation. Attach the boom to the boom cradle utilizing the boom bands. Tighten bands. Attach hydraulic hoses to the hydraulic poppet assembly. Boom band torque specification and procedure. Set the park brake, fully retract the boom, place the boom in the boom rest, and shut off the engine. Starting at the outer end of the boom, the saw end, loosen all 4 bolts on the outer band and retorque the bolts. Initially torque each bolt to 20 foot-pounds in the order shown. Torque the bolts to 40 foot-pounds for 5/8 inch or 35 foot-pounds for 1/2 inch in the same order, multiple times until all bolts are within specification. Repeat steps for each of the boom bands. Note, wear eye protection and hearing protection when performing this or any other repair to the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer. Contact the Jarraff Service Department at 1-800-767-7113 with additional questions. Secure outer boom. Once the outer boom is oriented and attached to the cradle, the outer boom can be secured to the outer boom bearing. Remove the temporary holding screw from the outer boom and the outer boom bearing. Check the level of the sawhead assembly. Make sure the sawhead assembly is perpendicular to the ground on a flat, level surface. Adjust if necessary before securing the outer boom bearing. Drill holes through the outer boom and into the outer boom bearing with a 1/2 inch bit at the 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock positions, 2 inches from the outer edge of the boom. After drilling each hole, screw in a coarse thread 1/2 inch by 1 1/2 inch bolt along with a 1/2 inch SAE flat washer. Tighten until secure. Important: make sure to drill holes no deeper than approximately 1 3/4 inches to avoid drilling into the inner boom. Set extension and retraction stops. Remove the protective metal mailbox enclosure surrounding the chain extension retraction assembly. Remove the top plate over the extension retraction assembly by loosening and removing the 4 bolts attaching the plate. With the boom installed and retracted and the extension retraction chain in place, install the retraction stop as shown. With the boom retracted, there should be approximately 3 inches between the saw adapter and the outer boom bearing. Slowly extend the inner boom until it reaches 31 feet, measured from the outer boom bearing to the beginning of the saw head adapter. Note: inner boom length should be checked daily. If a red painted band is visible on the inner boom, the machine should be shut down immediately and the boom chain stops should be inspected and repaired as needed. Failure to repair this issue could lead to a broken chain and possible damage to the inner boom. With the boom extended, install the extension stop as shown. Once installed, replace the top plate. Then replace the protective metal mailbox enclosure. Extension retraction chain adjustment. Extend the inner boom. Chain tension should be such that the chain stays engaged with the drive sprocket teeth. Spring compression should measure approximately 3.5 inches between the jam nut and the spring top. To increase chain tension, first loosen the jam nuts on both boom motor mount adjustment rods. Then evenly rotate clockwise each adjuster nut until proper tension is achieved. Finally, retighten the jam nut against the adjuster nut. To reduce chain tension, first loosen the jam nuts on both boom motor mount adjustment rods. Then evenly rotate counterclockwise each adjuster nut until the chain has loosened to the desired tension. Tighten the jam nut against the adjuster nut after proper tension is achieved. To start the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer, first check that all function controls are free and returning before starting the Jarraff. Next, engage the parking brake by pushing down the toggle switch located on the control panel. Note, if the Jarraff is equipped with climate control, make sure the heat selector is in the off position before starting. Push and hold the Murphy override button and turn the ignition key to start the Jarraff. Hold down the Murphy override until the engine is idling, then release. To start the Cummins engine, turn the ignition key clockwise until the Cummins engine monitor display turns on. Depending upon the ambient and engine temperatures, a wait to start engine message may display on the screen. Once the message clears and the system status information appears on the screen, start the engine by turning the ignition key clockwise. Hold the ignition key in place until the engine starts, then release. Check system hydraulic pressure. Check the charge pressure gauge located on the right gauge panel. The Jarraff's standard charge operating pressure should be at 375 psi. Note: the gauge will only show noted pressure when parking brake is released. Check the system pressure gauge located on the right gauge panel. Maximum Jarraff operating pressure is 2000 psi. Check hydraulic saw pressure. Check the saw blade hydraulic pressure gauge located on the right gauge panel. Gauge pressure reading will vary depending upon the blade load and oil temperature. Typical pressure is as follows: no load 700 to 1100 psi, maximum pressure, blade stall 2850 psi. Note: always remember to reduce the idle before shutting the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer down. Boom, saw, and cab controls. Before operating, make sure the Jarraff idle is at 2000 RPM for the Cummins machine and 2300 RPM for the Deutz machine. To increase the throttle, turn the throttle knob counterclockwise. Release the parking brake by pushing the parking brake toggle switch back. To raise and lower the boom during operation, engage the right-hand joystick. To raise the boom, engage the right-hand joystick back. To lower the boom, engage the right-hand joystick forward. To extend and retract the boom, engage the left-hand joystick. To extend the boom, engage the left-hand joystick forward. To retract the boom, engage the left-hand joystick back. Note, smooth and slow extension and retraction of the boom is key to the prevention of premature wear of the boom components. The Jarraff cab and upright are capable of tilting laterally 40 degrees to the right and to the left. To tilt the cab during operation, engage the right-hand joystick. To tilt left, engage the joystick to the left. To tilt right, engage the joystick to the right. The turntable base can rotate 360 degrees to the right or to the left. Note, always reverse a full 360-degree turn. To rotate the turntable base during operation, engage the left-hand joystick. To rotate the turntable base clockwise, engage the left-hand joystick to the right. To rotate the turntable base counterclockwise, engage the left-hand joystick to the left. To activate the saw blade, engage the saw blade toggle switch. To engage the toggle switch, release the toggle switch lock by pushing it forward. Then depress the toggle switch to activate the saw blade. Adjust the idle to 2000 RPM on the Cummins machine or 2300 RPM on the Deutz machine before activating the saw blade. Note, operating the engine faster than 2000 RPM for the Cummins or 2300 RPM for the Deutz with the saw blade engaged may cause saw blade damage. Wheeled Jarraff operation. Caution: before operating the Jarraff, make sure to wear the proper safety apparel and equipment, including a hard hat, safety glasses, safety shoes, safety gloves, safety vest, ear protection, the seat belt, and anything else required by the specifications of the job. Important: to prevent potential injury, only operate the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer with the safety harness fastened and the operator cab door closed. To lift and lower the push blade, engage the center joystick buttons. To raise the blade, press the right button on the joystick. To lower the blade, press the left button on the joystick. Raise the push blade before driving the Jarraff. The rocker foot pedal controls the forward and reverse functions of the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer. Release parking brake. Release the parking brake by pushing the parking brake toggle switch back. Once released, the toggle switch indicator will glow. To travel forward, depress the top rocker pedal. To travel in reverse, depress the bottom of the rocker pedal. Travel speed is increased or decreased dependent upon the degree of usage of the rocker foot pedal. Service brake. To engage the service brake, depress the service brake rocker foot pedal. The service brake foot pedal is located on the left-hand side of the cab. To disengage, release the rocker foot pedal. Transfer case. To shift the transfer case, engage the transfer case toggle switch. When in high range, the toggle switch indicator will glow. Note: do not shift the Jarraff transfer case from low to high or high to low while the Jarraff is in motion. The Jarraff needs to be at a complete stop before shifting the transfer case. Do not shift the transfer case when the Jarraff is positioned on a hillside in order to prevent it from going into neutral, causing a freewheel condition. Warning: do not operate the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer on a lateral angle that exceeds 25 degrees. Two-speed motor control. The two-speed motor control has two settings, low range and high range. To set the motor control to low range, engage the motor control toggle switch forward. To set the motor control to high range, engage the toggle switch back. When in high range, the toggle switch indicator will glow. Note: the two-speed motor control can be shifted on the fly. Low range is used for climbing hillsides and inclines. High range is best suited for level conditions and roading operations. Warning: do not operate the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer on a lateral angle that exceeds 25 degrees. Axle differential lock. To activate the axle differential lock, engage the axle differential lock toggle switch back. When in locked position, the toggle switch indicator will glow. To disengage the axle differential lock, engage the toggle switch forward. Note: the axle differential lock should only be used in difficult soil conditions or areas that require extra traction. The axle differential lock should be disengaged for roading or traveling on smooth surfaces or on pavement. Note: do not engage the axle differential lock when the wheels are spinning, as axle damage may result. Cab controls. Beacon lights. To activate the beacon lights, engage the beacon light toggle switch back. Note: beacon light patterns are pre-programmed. To select a different pattern after turning the beacon lights on, press and hold the toggle switch for 3 seconds to cycle to the next beacon light pattern. Several patterns are pre-programmed. The beacon light pattern last used will be saved as the current selection. Air conditioning. To activate the air conditioning, push the power rocker button forward. Next, select the air conditioning setting by turning the mode selector dial. The air conditioning temperature is self-regulating. There is no temperature control knob. To adjust the AC fan, move the fan position dial to the desired setting, low, medium, or high. Heater. To activate the cab heater, push the power rocker button forward. Next, select the heater setting by turning the mode selector dial. To adjust the heater fan, move the fan position dial to the desired setting, the low, medium, or high. To adjust the temperature, move the temperature setting dial to the desired temperature range. Fan. To activate the cab fan, engage the cab fan toggle switch. The fan has two settings, low and high, which are controlled by the toggle switch. Windshield wiper. To activate the windshield wiper, engage the windshield wiper toggle switch back. The windshield wiper has two speed settings, low and high, which can be controlled with the windshield wiper toggle switch. Roading control. For traveling to and from job site locations, newer Jarraff models are equipped with a roading control. Important. The rodent control option should only be used during extended travel between job site locations. The control is not designed to be used during trimming operations. To use the rodent control while traveling, engage the rodent control throttle. Note: speed will increase dependent upon the degree of usage of the throttle. To operate rodent control with a joystick, select Hand Control Switch. Then engage the rodent control joystick forward to move forward. Disengage the joystick and the Jarraff will stop. To operate the rodent control with the foot control, select the foot control switch. Engage the foot control pedal forward to move forward. Note: speed will increase dependent upon the degree of usage of the throttle. Release the foot control pedal and the Jarraff will stop. The Jarraff is equipped with a hydrostatic transmission. To stop the Jarraff, slowly release the rocker foot pedal. After stopping, engage the parking brake and lower the push blade. Note: brake system operation should be checked daily. To check operation, slowly drive the machine in reverse and apply the brakes while in motion. The machine should stop immediately. If the machine fails to stop, contact Jarraff Industries for further inspection procedures. To steer the Jarraff, engage the center joystick. To steer to the right, engage the center joystick to the right. To steer to the left, engage the center joystick to the left. Note: steering function will only work with the parking brakes released. Track Jarraff operation. Caution: before operating the Jarraff, make sure to wear the proper safety apparel and equipment, including a hard hat, safety glasses, safety shoes, safety gloves, safety vest, ear protection, the seat belt, and anything else required by the specifications of the job. Important: to prevent potential injury, only operate the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer with the safety harness fastened and the operator cab door closed. To raise and lower the track Jarraff push blade, engage the push buttons on the right joystick. To raise the push blade, press the right button on the joystick. To lower the push blade, press the left button on the joystick. Raise the push blade before driving the Jarraff. To drive the track Jarraff, engage the rocker foot pedals. To travel forward, depress the top of both the right and the left rocker foot pedals. To travel in reverse, depress the bottom of both the right and left rocker foot pedals. Travel speed is increased or decreased dependent upon the degree of usage of the rocker foot pedals. To steer the track Jarraff to the right, release the right rocker foot pedal and depress the top of the left rocker foot pedal only. To steer the track Jarraff to the left, release the left rocker foot pedal and depress the top of the right rocker foot pedal only. Note: to ensure smooth turning, do not completely release the rocker foot pedal. Maintaining a level of engagement on the released rocker foot pedal will help the Jarraff turn gradually rather than abruptly if the pedal is completely released. The Jarraff is equipped with a hydrostatic transmission. To stop the Jarraff, slowly release both rocker foot pedals. After stopping the giraffe, it is advised to engage the parking brake and lower the push blade. Note: brake system operation should be checked daily. To check operation, slowly drive the machine in reverse and apply the brakes while in motion. The machine should stop immediately. If the machine fails to stop, contact Jarraff Industries for further inspection procedures. Field operation. The stability of the Jarraff is inherently excellent because the boom is relatively light and the carrier vehicle is heavy enough and wide enough to negotiate most difficult terrains. The wheel and track unit undercarriage used on the Jarraff have their own limitations, capabilities, gradability, stability, and ground pressure and flotation. Wheel configurations. The Jarraff is delivered in a shipping wheel configuration, which is a narrow track width, in order to prevent overhang on standard trailers. Important: always use proper safety equipment. Caution: prior to operation, the wheels must be adjusted to the wider track width. On flat ground with the machine off and the parking brake set, jack up one end of the machine at a time so that the wheels on the axle being adjusted are off the ground approximately 4 inches. Remove 3/4 inch hardware from the outer bolt circles only, leaving the axle plate fastened to the axle with the 7/8 inch nuts. Pull the wheel outward or away from the machine until the axle plate meets the rim plate. Reinstall the 3/4 inch hardware in this position and torque to 380 foot-pounds. Reverse these steps to adjust back to the shipping configuration. Contact the Jarraff Service Department at 800-767-7113 with questions. Positioning the Jarraff while cutting is very important. With the trees on the left side of the Jarraff, uncut limbs do not hamper the operator's vision, and the saw motor does not catch on the tree or cut tree limbs. Important: operating the Jarraff beyond a 25-degree slope is not recommended. It is important to stay out of the red zone on the inclinometer while operating the Jarraff on a slope or hillside. When the ground conditions are good and the terrain relatively smooth, it is not necessary to cradle the boom when moving the Jarraff. The boom may be retracted and lowered to a position not interfering with advancing to the next set. This allows for almost continuous cutting. However, if ground conditions are poor and terrain is rough, the boom may be cradled in a matter of seconds. After the boom is cradled, a slight down pressure will ensure the boom will not bounce up and down in the cradle position. When cutting, the saw may be operated off all quadrants of the Jarraff. Maximum production is attained when the operator is free to use all of these cutting strokes. A typical cutting sequence is as follows. The boom is raised and extended to cut the nearest low limb. This gives the operator a point of reference for the rest of the limbs to be reached. With the next cut, an up and out stroke cuts the next limb, repeating the procedure until all the limbs within reach are cut. The Jarraff is then advanced to the next set of cuts. For more information on the Jarraff all-terrain tree trimmer, contact Jarraff Industries. 1-800-767-7113.